Hey, everybody. Welcome to Fridays with Steve. Thanks for joining us, whether you're joining us live on LinkedIn or YouTube or after the fact via the recordings. I appreciate it. Um, I love the opportunities we have to talk to other people and bring in knowledge and insight from lots of other places in the world. And one of the things that's happened to Apex over the last couple of years, my part of my role here is around partnerships and alliances, and we've really seen some shifts in how we think about partnering. And so we're going to spend some time today kind of exploring that kind of innovative, kind of new to us sort of partnership around design and around furniture and welcoming spaces and things like that, because they've become a lot more important in the world. Hybrid work is something that we talk a lot about on Fridays with Steve. But this is a bit of a different take in that attracting people to come back to the office sometimes can be a bit challenging, or folks are looking for different experiences. And my guest today, Natalie, has amazing insight into how that works, how that looks and feels, and then their experiences over at IE at Interior Environments, and how they can make that better for you. And so that's the plan for today. Is we're gonna talk about kind of traditional office spaces. Our work has been changing a bit. We work with a lot of customers that are retrofitting or sort of addressing needs that they have from a hybrid meetings and a collaboration need with existing spaces, but then in partnership with IE and in some other instances, we're working on remodels and moves and things like that, where they can really reimagine the space from the beginning. Natalie has some great insight into sort of the eras we've gone through. I sort of appreciated it. We should have recorded our pre-call. We had a great conversation around some of these things, and I kind of walked through my career, and I'm like, oh yeah, that is what the office looked like back then, and then we tried this and had some challenges, and sort of where we're at now, and then really understanding how they work with customers and how they really help them bring it all together. They've been so helpful to us and so helpful to the customers we share that I want to give Natalie and representing her team the opportunity to kind of walk us through how they think about all that stuff. So without any further ado, I want to hear from her. So let's bring Natalie on. And first off, Natalie, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. Why don't you just take a couple of minutes and tell us who you are and what you do?
Sure. Thanks, Steve. I'm very excited to be here today. So my name is Natalie Flora. I am our Chief Creative Officer at Interior Environments. Interior Environments is a workplace and furniture dealership. We're headquartered out of Novi, Michigan, but we have locations in Denver, Colorado, Boise, Idaho, and newly Atlanta, Georgia. So what I do at IE, I have an interior design background, and I really lead our design team and our customers through the exploration part of the project to truly understand what their goals are, and just to create a great experience for them. So I've been at IE for 18 years, and I've worked with thousands of customers, so a lot of experience in just a lot of different types of projects and workplace design.
That's awesome. And you talk about, having been doing this a while, and I mentioned, I love that walkthrough you did. We're in this time now of hybrid work and collaboration. And before we get to there, just kind of walk us through the eras and kind of how you guys approached, working in collaborative environments over time, right? I mentioned as you walk through it, I'm like, well, oh, yep, that's what the environment looked like at Target when I was there. Oh, yep, we did Lincoln Square for Microsoft in about 2007. Okay, low walls, and you can hear everybody everywhere. And so just kind of walk us through these eras and how we ended up here today.
Absolutely. 2020 was a scary time, I think, for a lot of companies and businesses. I jokingly told the owner of our company that I was retiring from being a workplace strategist because especially in our industry, in the design industry, workplace design, commercial design specifically, our world was changing dramatically and people were not in the office. We did not see what the future was going to look like. And what we do a lot of times is really think about what our customers are facing. So at that time, rather than kind of shutting down or ambulance chasing our clients with newest, latest, and greatest products and screens and things like that, we really just went out and started interviewing people and understanding what business problems they had. And I was having a hard time articulating to our clients why we thought the office would shift. And so our team really sat back, did a lot of research and thought around what we were currently designing for and why that was no longer working. And what we really came up with is that space is designed around how people are working in them, the type of technology they have access to, a culture that the company is trying to promote, wellness, and management styles. And where we were at in 2020 was really designing to get out of the 1980s and 2000s space and production model. So if you think about the 80s to 2000s, people were pretty limited or fixed. They didn't have technology, internet, cell phones, laptops. So they worked a pretty 9-to-5 schedule. Cultures were very strong, work ethic, but it was a very hierarchical plan, and management styles were by walking around. So the office had high panels, private offices, and closed meeting spaces. All of that shifted with the introduction of technology, laptop, cell phones, the internet. We were really able to work way past 9 to 5. Management style became about output and hours worked. People started to be more collaborative, mobile. They wanted better access to leadership. Wellness started to become a concern, more physical wellness than mental wellness. So, but culturally, people were having a hard time with work-life balance. And so companies tried to proact that by having these really cool places to work, open plans for collaboration, agile settings, and then perks. So it was really about being the coolest place to work. Google and a lot of other companies kind of amplified that. And what we recognized in 2000, with the pandemic, it accelerated, all of those things shifted again. So the way people worked were different. Technology, which we'll talk a lot about today, is completely different and allowing us to work in many different ways. People are not in the office every day. They like this idea of hybrid and flexibility and choice over where they can do their best work. So companies shifted their management style, which really became more about trusting your employees because you weren't there with them all of the time. So everyone really kind of had to adjust. And the thing that really needed to change is your workplace, especially if you had a workplace prior that people didn't want to go to. They're especially not going to get in their car and drive there now. So it's something that all businesses are facing. And I think that technology and meeting spaces is a number one driver of why people want to go back to the workplace and what we probably need to update the most.
Yeah, no, as you're walking through that, I was thinking, I was at Target in the 90s and how high your cube wall was commensurate with your place in the organization. And then, as I mentioned, thinking about my time in Microsoft, an office building that was sort of fitted out in about 2005. Everything open, but there was never a conference room, right? We were always strapped for places to meet and collaborate. And so that's sort of where we're landing now is, that coming back to the office is about the collaboration. It's because we're here to be useful, right? We're here to do something versus, like you said, talk about management style versus I have to be here so that people think I'm working. So you guys come at it from the design element, and you mentioned meeting rooms and collaboration and so forth. When you work with a customer, what sort of inputs do you take from them as you're thinking about and designing spaces for them to work in and collaborate in? And then we'll get to the technology piece, right? That's where we sort of come in, but I really appreciate kind of learning more about how you think and how you help customers make these spaces welcoming.
Yeah, I think a number one question that we ask right now is what is your return to work strategy? I think every single company has a different plan or a different kind of process in place of what their approach looks like. Some companies are a lot more flexible. Some companies are more scheduled. One of the hardest things to determine right now is occupancy. So how many people are potentially going to be in the workplace at one time? And that then directly kind of relates to meeting spaces or the types of settings that you're creating. Something that I thought was interesting that has really shifted in our world is we used to design the workplace more like 75% solo individual space, I think workstation, private office, and then 25% meeting space, social collaborative space. And we've seen those numbers shift. So now we're really designing 75% of the space to social collaborative meeting spaces, and the workstation and offices are more secondary spaces, because if you're coming in, most of the time it's to meet with people, be more in that collaborative environment, thought leadership, sharing ideas. So we really try to figure out how the companies work, how they engage together, what is their average size meeting, what type of specialty meetings do these teams have, and it's really, I think, kind of industry based. So if you're working with someone that's more of a creative or an engineering firm, a lot of those meeting sizes can be larger because they're more team based. And you're also trying to create certain behaviors, or you're really trying to promote that collaboration, that in-person meeting space. So do they need whiteboards? Are people calling into those meetings? Are they all in person? And then just really trying to figure out, the size, the setting, the furniture behavior. Is it more casual? Is it more table-based? Those are kind of a lot of things I think we're
Yeah. And so you've mentioned bringing in the technology, and we've been doing great work together with some customers, and I hope we continue to grow our partnership. So what changes have you had to make, or how do you help customers navigate this? You used a great example of, hey, let's pull the table 6 inches away from the wall because that gives us better visuals from a wall mounted camera. So how are you starting to inject those conversations in?
Yeah, I think that historically technology has come in a little bit later into a project. It's not necessarily a primary focus all of the time. What we are trying to do as an overall organization, especially training our design team, is to think of it as a primary concern. The technology is really driving the shape of the room, the size of the room, as we mentioned, the occupancy of the room, camera angles, microphones, lighting, what the backdrop looks like are all new things that we haven't necessarily thought about as primary concerns. So if we don't think about it at the beginning planning stages of a project, it might not get built into the budget correctly.
Okay.
It might not get built into the construction plan correctly. So we would really like to partner up early on that. But we also want our design team, I think something that we've created together that you guys had really started, is this idea of room archetypes. So what types of spaces are you going to have, and what does that look like? So we recently worked on a large project together, and it was really great having all of that design information beforehand that we could share with the customer. Have you ever heard of Microsoft Teams Front Row and the new screen ratios and
Sure.
crescent style tables goes in front of it? Our clients aren't used to that, and even some of our design partners, maybe that's new to them. So thinking about what the shape and size and configuration of the furniture in that room is different than what maybe a traditional boardroom setting looked like before.
Yeah, we've had a couple of really funny scenarios with existing customers where they want to put technology into a room and it's 90% glass walls, and we're like, oh, this is going to be really awful, right? Between the glare and the backdrops and all of those kinds of things. And so it sounds like the key is really getting in early. And I don't want to leg wrestle you, but it's like, should the furniture and should the design drive the technology? Should the technology drive the design, or is it different and it's really just about customer outcome or what they're trying to accomplish?
I do think that the technology is driving the design.
Okay.
Depending on what that setting is looking like. And I think you're right. You can't re-engineer a space. You can to a degree. It won't necessarily be the perfect setting, but thinking about what those settings are and what you're really trying to accomplish. And then it's probably a collaboration or coordination, but I think that the technology probably comes first, this furniture secondary to support that technology, especially camera angles and acoustics is a huge piece of that. And really just to make that, I think you said equitable meeting space. And a lot of it is making sure that, we are assuming right now that one person is going to call in to almost every single meeting. And I would probably assume that most of our current meeting setups do not support that in the avenue that we want it to. So I think we're all trying to play catch up a little bit, but I think it's going to be a major driver in design.
Yeah, that's what was interesting for me working with a lot of our customers. I've been working from home for many, many years, just based off of different roles, and have ended up with a home setup that is pretty capable, right? It's got a 4K camera. I've got my TikTok light. I've got a boom mic. Like I realized I had to invest in this stuff. And then when we went back to work, sometimes I would talk to customers in their fanciest conference room, and like I was the one with the good experience based off of the technology I had. So, you talked about it not having been a consideration in the past. Now it's more of a consideration as you retrofit or readdress. One question I've always had is video conferencing technology used to be so expensive, right? HP and Cisco kinds of rooms, Crestron, very expensive, almost very niche. Now the price point has come really, really far down. So you think about customer budgets, right? How do you guide them to think about, hey, spend your money here. Let's make for great acoustics, or let's have the best furniture and experience, or let's have the best technology. How do you balance those things? Because historically, I think because the tech was so expensive, we were always well, if you have money left over, let's do this. Now it's all integrated. So how do you coach customers about where to spend their time and their money most effectively?
Yeah. I think that simplifying that a little bit is really helpful. One of the things that we've done from a furniture standpoint is simplify an overall budget based off of square footage or per person. You can anticipate spending X amount to give you an overall range of furniture. And I've been talking about trying to do that with technology. One thing I think that we do really well with customers, especially if we get brought in early enough, a lot of times they have to go out for a CapEx spend. So they haven't actually asked for the money yet from the company, and helping them build that original request. I think historically a lot of the problem is they had a thought of what technology was and maybe built it into their budget, but it was a quarter of the cost that it needed to be. So that's why it felt like it always came in last. And I think that, and furniture, quite frankly, is kind of a similar problem. We're, maybe second to last, and it seems to get cut as well. But I think if you are educating your partners and, project management firms and design firms, as well as ourselves, of what that cost could anticipate being, they can start to build that into their early on budget. So when they do get approval for spend, they know that the technology is going to be, X amount of that overall spend. It's usually the problem is they didn't ask for enough money or get enough approval, and then they realize how expensive certain things are going to be, and they're having to make tough decisions on what to prioritize at that point.
Yeah, and that's you raised something interesting about simplicity, right? And that's where the technology has really advanced. Are you finding it? Are we over the hump with your customers, making it simple enough to be approachable? I think that's the history of video technology as well. Is that it's cumbersome, it's problematic, it never works when you need it to. Have you gotten some feedback from customers that is like, hey, we're ready for this because we think it's ready for the CFO, she can walk into a room and start a meeting without having to call, the IT director kind of thing. Do you get that sense from customers?
Yeah, I think we've worked just recently with 2 customers that found it very simple. One had a CTO, which is helpful. So you have someone who is leading the technology charge for the company. So I think that made that a little bit simpler, and making it understood that that was a top priority. The other customer knew the importance of technology and having, if employees are leaving their homes and coming to the office, and their experience the first time they enter a space and they don't know how to figure it out, 9 out of 10 times they're not going to go back to that room and want to use it again. So we are trying to make that interface very simple, with iPad controls, things that are very intuitive to them. And so far, I think that with these room archetypes, they're very similar setups just based on the application that you're doing. So I think that simplifying that has been very positive, and it's showing customers that it is a priority and it is easy to use, and the cost has come down. So I think that is all kind of a perfect balance right now.
Yeah, the cost has definitely come down, and I think one experience that was very interesting for us is it's helped us break sort of technology budget, technology investment out of the just pure spend of IT. And when people see it as part of their remodel, part of their corporate brand, part of their way that they attract and retain employees, that really helps us, right? That really helps us communicate the message that, hey, this stuff matters. It's not just a line item in the budget. This is actually part of your strategy for brand marketing, for retaining employees and stuff like that. I think you guys you've been in tune with that. It's kind of new to us, though, to say, hey, a really cool Teams room system with a Jupyter display, that's going to help you keep employees. That's going to help wow customers when they come visit the office. We've never been lucky like that, right? We've always been seen as a line item budget. And so I think that's been more your experience, though. People invest in the design because they know it's part of who they are.
Yeah, and I think that it was not necessarily a priority for people. It was a nice to have, not a need to have. And really becoming a need to have. And we're even seeing it in projects where maybe a handful of rooms would have the good technology, and then the other spaces would be secondary. And now it's almost a must that every space must have it. It is a little shocking at first, I think, even though the costs have come down when you don't totally understand what the room's going to look like. But we just did a great exercise with you guys in one of our showroom designs where the cost was a little higher than we had anticipated. And we went room by room and really made sure that what we were putting in that space was going to be what we really needed. And we did value engineer it a little bit, and thought about, well, we can add that later if we need to. So we created a flexible design, I think. And I think that's the important part, is we really can be at anyone's budget. We really can help them prioritize it. It's just, what do they care about and where do they want to spend, and really get the most out of it for their staff and how their team is using it.
So last question before I let you go, I'm kind of wondering if you and I don't at times have the same challenge, which is, I'll bring in commercial displays and commercial display pricing, and they are different, they're warranty different and so forth. And a lot of our customers want to run to Costco and buy TVs off the shelf. So when you present commercial furniture, do you ever get customers who want to run to the Levitt showroom and buy some chairs?
IKEA is really similar, right? They're like, well, I can get can I just buy this at IKEA? And I think it's a similar conversation. If you want your furniture or your display to last a couple of years and it's kind of a short-term use, then absolutely that might be the right selection. But if you're looking for, a lot of our customers are signing 5, 10, 15-year leases. So if they're going to be in these spaces for that long, they want the product to withstand that amount of time. So I think it's just educating them on what those real differences are. And a lot of times once they realize what that looks like, usually the spend is allocated the right way.
So you're with me. If we could get IKEA and Costco to turn our customers away, that would be helpful. Well, Natalie, hey, this was great. I really enjoy working with you and your team, and the entire org over there at IE. You've really opened our eyes to getting in early on projects, partnering with design, and making this stuff great from the beginning. Any closing thoughts before we let you go?
No, I agree. It's been great, and thank you for having me. And we look forward to continuing to see what's new and help our clients work together. So I appreciate it.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Natalie.
All right. Thank you.
So we have a great partnership with these guys, and really enjoy all the work that we're doing together. And I think it's made us more capable in the space as well. So thanks to Natalie Flora and all the team over there at IE. They're great to partner with. Would love to make introductions for existing new customers that we have, because I think they can really help. I loved her comment about IKEA. We run into that occasionally as well. If you want a TV that's going to be on 24 hours a day to last, 18 months, absolutely run to Costco. If you want it to last 5 years or be backed up by, commercial kinds of warranties and the distribution channel that we use, let's stick with the good stuff we quoted. So give us a call. We've got this additional partnership, this additional capability where we can bring in experts around design, around furniture, around space planning, and really working with your team to understand your needs, right? So we don't, over engineer or under engineer the spaces that you're looking to address. And we've worked with dozens of customers in this space, specifically hundreds of customers over our lifetime over the last 20 years. We'd love to help you as well. So if you're if you're an existing customer and this resonates with you, go ahead and let your account executive know. We'd love to work with you around any work you're doing in this space. If you're not currently a customer, just drop a note to sales, drop a note to me directly. I'd love to talk to you about how Apex can help in this back to work, hybrid, collaborative world. It's really where our expertise lies around the technology. And now we've got partners like Natalie who can really help us with the design and the space utilization aspects as well. So that's it. Thanks for joining us on Fridays with Steve. I really appreciate everybody tuning in. I'm going to do a quick plug for an event next week at this point, July 25th. We'll be doing a breakdown of Microsoft Inspire. Microsoft Inspire just wrapped up this week. They do lots of product and solution and service announcements. And we're going to work with another one of our partners, Total Solutions, on the technology side, and with our CTO, Sean Flahey, kind of host a panel discussion about, what some of the announcements meant to you, how you can take advantage of them, and how you can work with Apex and Total Solutions to make this stuff sing in your environment. So that's it. Thanks for joining us, and I'll see you next time on Fridays with Steve.